everyone is talking about Mexico City lately. We think that Mexico City is a phenomenal city. We both love it very much. But the thing is, a few months ago, we actually visited another very large Mexican city, and we loved it so much, and we realized how underrated it is. So that is why in this video, we're going to be comparing Guadalajara to Mexico City so that you can make the decision which is best for you to visit.
We're Simone and Giovanni, and over the last 3 years, we quit our jobs, moved to Mexico with our dog, got married, and began our journey to visit all 32 states of Mexico.
Grab a cup of tea and your notebook because we are sharing all the best things to eat, see, and do in these two iconic Mexican cities.
So starting off with how to get there, assuming that you're flying in, Mexico City actually has two main airports. The one is Benito Juarez International Airport. That's the old airport. That's the airport that everyone goes to. That's actually super convenient because it's only about a 20-minute car ride into Centro Histórico. So we would highly recommend using Uber over taxi. Taxis are a little bit questionable in Mexico City. Otherwise, you could also take the metro. It's definitely the most affordable way to transition into Centro Histórico. If your flight ends up landing in AIFA,
Aeropuerto Internacional Felipe Ángeles, yeah?
Exactamente, which is the brand new airport. It literally opened last year in 2022. We actually stopped there on our way to Guadalajara, and it was so empty. I think there was only one shop open and there were no restaurants. The only thing to keep in mind is if your flight is landing there, it's kind of inconvenient because it's pretty far out of the city. You're going to have to take an Uber for about 45 minutes to get into Mexico City. So yeah, just be aware of that.
So the airport you will be landing in Guadalajara will be the International Airport of Guadalajara called Miguel Hidalgo, which is located in the outskirts of the city. So it will take approximately like 30 to 35 minutes to get to Centro Histórico, Historic Center.
Yes. We tried to actually maneuver via public transportation, but we found it to be very complicated, so we just ended up taking an Uber. So we would recommend doing the same.
Yeah.
All right, so now you're in Mexico City and you're inside Mexico City and you're probably wondering how to get around. Because it is such a massive metropolitan city, you've got so many options. Number one, the most affordable thing would be to use the metro. There are a lot of police officers and people in the metro that can direct you, but they don't speak English. You have to at least have a little bit of Spanish, and you need to know where you need to get to so that they are able to help you. Super affordable, super convenient, super fast, very well organized. Other than that, there are taxis. We would not recommend using taxis. Our one and only experience with a taxi in Mexico City, we put our bags into his trunk, and as we closed it, Giovanni realized that he didn't have a number plate on his car, and we've heard a lot of like sketchy things about taxis. So we were banging on the trunk, asking him to let us get our bags, and he didn't want to, and then he eventually did, and we just walked away from that situation. So there is Uber.
Didi?
There is Didi. There is the metro bus as well, which we also use, which was also super affordable, super convenient. Again, you do need to have a basic level of Spanish to be able to move around with that.
Yeah.
Another thing that we really enjoyed in terms of transportation is the Touri bus. So those are like the hop on, hop off buses. We'd recommend taking that either on the first or the second day that you're there if you want to get a good idea of the layout of the city. Oh, and just a side note, Mexico City, specifically if you're staying around Centro Histórico, is super walkable. So if you're just wanting to be in Centro Histórico, Palanco, Roma, those kinds of areas, and you love to walk, you wouldn't even need to seek out any of these transportation options. This is just more if you are headed, you know, out on the outskirts, like to go to Azteca Stadium or Xochimilco, the pyramids, or anything like that.
So how to get around to La Perla de Occidente, known as Guadalajara as well? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Centro Histórico. It's quite smaller than Mexico City, so it was a lot smaller. So we were walking most of the time in Centro Histórico. So if you technically want to go to like other places such as like Tlaquepaque, Tonalá, or
Chapala, Tequila.
Yeah, you can even use Uber for that. We were using like Tapatio Tours, which is kind of like the same hop on, hop off, but what?
Hop on, hop off.
The hop on, hop off bus. So we didn't even feel like the need to use public transportation because we felt like the city was walkable.
Yeah, or if we were going on a day trip, we were going with a tour or with Uber. So we don't really have anything to say about the public transportation in Guadalajara, although it is a huge city, so it definitely is an option if you're staying there for long term. And just as a brief interruption, we have done full videos on every single place that we're talking about. We've literally done check out our Guadalajara playlist or our Mexico City playlist.
Gotcha.
So when it comes to looking for a place to stay in Mexico City, if you're coming to specifically tour like the Centro Histórico area to see the nice upscale areas, we'd highly recommend looking for something just on the outskirts of Centro Histórico. But if you did want to stay in like the more upscale areas that are going to have really cute cafes and co-working spaces and that kind of thing, you'll want to look for Roma Norte, Roma Sur, Polanco.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Well, in contrast with what Simone was mentioning and not staying in Centro Histórico in Mexico City, actually in Guadalajara we stay in the heart of Centro Histórico with one of, I think, the best hotel view in Centro Histórico in Guadalajara. We feel like it's safer there, like more calm.
Yes, yeah, no, Centro Histórico at night in Guadalajara feels completely different to Mexico City. Mexico City, I don't know, it's very, very busy and there's a lot going on. We had such a beautiful view of Centro Histórico from our hotel room, and it was very quiet. There were a lot of elderly people walking around. There were a lot of teenagers practicing their TikTok dances. Centro Histórico in Guadalajara definitely feels a lot safer and more walkable at night versus Mexico City.
Yeah. Other options will be Zapopan, where you will find more like the upscale hotels.
Yeah, and that's where you're going to find like the fancy malls and that kind of thing. That's probably the equivalent of Polanco in Mexico City would be Zapopan in Guadalajara. So next up is how many nights to stay in each place. We would say the minimum to stay in Mexico City would be 5 to 7 days. A lot more if you can.
The minimum nights that we recommend to stay in Guadalajara would be from 4 to 5 nights, and that will include the day trips that you can do from Guadalajara to the other nearby cities.
Yeah.
Because we felt like in Guadalajara there's not much going on as comparing with Mexico City. Mm-hmm. So the Centro Histórico, you can get it covered in like
a morning,
like half of the day, and that's it.
There just definitely is not as much to see and do in Guadalajara as there is in Mexico City. Not saying that Guadalajara is not amazing. Guadalajara is so amazing, but yeah, there's just not as much to do. There are so many things that make Mexico City Mexico City. So first we've got Xochimilco, which are the ancient Aztec canals, full of history. It's such a vibe. Definitely would recommend. Centro Histórico, you cannot miss Centro Histórico, specifically to go and see the most beautiful building you will ever see, which is Palacio de las Bellas Artes.
As well as Zócalo and the cathedral and the underground city.
Yes, that's true. Then there's Chinatown. It was very interesting. Azteca Stadium, which is home to Club America, which is Giovanni's largest rival.
And Cruz Azul team.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that too.
The Museum of Anthropology. We are not huge museum people at all, but it was very, very interesting. And then much like New York, Mexico City has got its big equivalent of Central Park, except the park in Mexico City is way larger than Central Park. It is called Chapultepec Park. The park itself is an icon of the city. You have to go see it. It's so beautiful. But besides that, there's actually Chapultepec Castle. You have to pay an admission to get in, but it is so beautiful. Highly recommend. And then something just to look at, you don't even have to stop there, just as long as you go past in a car or something, is the Ángel de la Independencia, which is so beautiful and very important to see if you're there.
Yeah. The icons in Guadalajara, the Centro Histórico is one of the things that you cannot miss. There's the cathedral, there's museums, there are
the government palace.
The government palace is beautiful. The Mariachi Plaza, Tequila Town, where tequila was born. It's one of the icons of Jalisco, but Guadalajara, which is like the closest city from tequila. Last but not least, the Chivas Stadium, which I didn't have the chance to visit because there was no Chivas match on the days we were there.
Guadalajara and Mexico City are actually like kind of head to head when it comes to football. So aside from the iconic places that we mentioned having to go visit in Mexico City, these are the best things that we would recommend doing. Number one would be taking a walking tour around Centro Histórico, keeping in mind that it is huge, so this is probably going to take an entire day. And while you're doing that, it's actually quite cool to go visit a market. We would specifically recommend going to see Mercado San Juan. It was super interesting. They had some very interesting things there. We ate a scorpion or a cockroach.
Yeah, scorpion. We call them alacran.
Yes, we ate a chocolate-covered alacran. Otherwise, if you're feeling very, very adventurous, Central de Abastos is a massive market. When we say massive, like they have their own police station, they have their own road signs, it's huge. Go there with a local though. Don't go by yourself.
I think they do tours.
book a tour. Central de Abastos is incredible. Next, you will want to go and see Polanco, which is one of the most upscale areas in Mexico City. The buildings are beautiful. You're going to see luxury cars all over the place. It's just really stunning. And then while you're there, there is a massive museum. Entrance is free. It's called Museo de Somaya. It was built by the wealthiest man in Latin America. Very impressive, very, very beautiful. You can't go to Mexico City without planning a day trip to Xochimilco. If you want to go when it's quiet, go any day of the week. If you want to go there for like the real fiesta, locals actually typically go on a Sunday. So if you want to go when it's like super hype, go on a Sunday. If there is a game while you're there and you're into football, we'd definitely recommend Azteca. I don't watch sports, specifically soccer, at all, but I just enjoyed being in the stadium and experiencing the crowd. Just crowd watching was amazing.
One of the main difference we found between Mexico City and Guadalajara was we felt like Mexico City, everything was compacted.
Yes, yeah, everything's like interconnected.
Yeah, and Guadalajara is just like the Centro Histórico, some of the residential areas, and probably some industrial areas around. After that, you have to go for day trips, like going to the nearby towns where you will get places such as Tequila, where the beverage tequila was born. Tlaquepaque, which is more like the handcraft town. That's how I can explain.
Very beautiful. It's like probably one of the most Instagram friendly places we've been. There's so many colors. It's so vibrant. We love it.
And also we found the town of Tonalá, where there's a lot of handcraft. On Thursdays and on Sundays, they have a massive street market. Also, another day trip that are a little bit further from Guadalajara will be the towns located in the region of the Lake Chapala, which is Ajijic and Chapala town. Both beautiful towns at the skirts of the Lake Chapala, which I think Ajijic is one of our favorite towns in the entire country.
Yeah, Ajijic is so walkable and so beautiful, and everything is just like cobblestone roads and colorful buildings, and it's gorgeous. So out of all of those day trips that Giovanni just mentioned, Tequila and Ajijic would be spots that you can't miss. So something that is so iconic of both of these cities are the food, and it's actually quite surprising to us how different the food in each of the cities are. So starting with Mexico City, these are the things that we'd highly recommend eating, specifically when it comes to talking about street food, because street food is the essence of food culture in Mexico City. So as Giovanni and other Mexicans would call it, vitamin T. I don't call it vitamin, I call it vitamin, because it's vitamin T, which would be tacos, tortas, and tamales. You gotta try those three. There's another thing called guajolota, which is a tamal on a bread roll. So many carbs. You're probably good for your energy requirements for the whole day. Then there's champurrado. Personally, I don't like it at all. Giovanni loves it. It's like a hot, thick, starchy beverage. It's actually quite sweet as well. And then the last thing would be churros. You've got to get churros, but not just anywhere. We tried churros from a few places. We were not really impressed, but Churreria El Moro, which is it's a chain restaurant actually that was established many years ago. Theoretically the first churro establishments in Mexico. I don't know, but they are amazing. It doesn't matter which branch you go to. We've probably been to all the branches. The churros are amazing.
And the hot chocolate.
Yes, get the combo, the churro and hot chocolate combo. Excelente.
So to start with Guadalajara, one of the main food icons is that la torta ahogada, which is like the drawn sandwich, but they have a sauce made out of like tomato and some like chilies that you technically drawn your
so
torta.
It's like soggy.
Another important dish is sopa de tortilla, which technically is soup with tortilla strips. Another very important dish will be birria, which is technically goat stew.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. But he likes it.
I love it. Something that we tried that actually kind of regret not trying the traditional version of it. I will consider that as a flan, like Napolitan flan.
The drink tequila originates from the state of Jalisco, where Guadalajara is, where the town of Tequila is. We would specifically recommend getting a cantarito, which is typically about that big. They add a lot of tequila,
oranges, grapefruit, and grapefruit soda.
Muy bien, very nice.
Muy bueno.
Muy bueno. Alright, so when it comes to weather and the best time to visit each city, the weather is very similar in both cities. So we're just going to lump them in the same bucket. May to September is rainy season. Because both of these places you would want to have the option to walk a lot, we'd probably recommend avoiding those 2 times. Because both cities are at a high altitude, I don't feel that it gets very hot and humid. I actually felt like it was quite cool and dry. We wore jeans and t-shirts, and we didn't really wear summer clothes in either places because it just doesn't get very hot, in our opinion at least. So since these are 2 very large cities, of course you need to take safety into consideration. A lot of people will say, oh, don't visit Mexico City, it's so dangerous. We don't feel like it's dangerous. There are just a few things to watch out for. Pickpocketing would be one of them. So what we actually do when we go to Mexico City is we always get these releasable cable ties. And if we're specifically walking around like Centro Histórico, or if we're going on the metro, definitely, we just secure our zips with cable ties, and I mean, that seems to do the trick. Another thing, I mean, just using common sense. We don't walk dark alleys at night in places like Mexico City. It's not necessary. You don't want to put yourself in that kind of situation. But other than that, it's not as dangerous as what the internet makes it seem. The media.
For Guadalajara, we took some of the same precautions. Something that a hotel member recommends us is like in the main intersections, there's a lot of like people riding their motorbikes, and then if you have any electronics or your cell phone or things like that, so these people are just passing by, grabbing and just continue their way.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, it's like a grab and go thing that's been happening for the last few years. I know there's a few YouTubers that even said it happened to them. So if you're walking around with your phone or your camera, just be very conscious of your surroundings, specifically as you're approaching those avenues where there's a lot of people on their bikes and things like that.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so now we've come to the part of the video where we are revealing which is our favorite city. Such a hard decision to make. I love Mexico City so much, I do. But I also get very easily overwhelmed with the amount of people and the amount of things going on and the amount of loud sounds. So I would say that's just something about Mexico City that I struggle with a little bit. I loved Guadalajara because I loved how different all of the day trips felt. Like every single day trip around Guadalajara feels like you're in a completely different space. So I think for me, Guadalajara is my favorite out of the 2 cities because of that, and also because of sopa de tortilla. I love sopa de tortilla. I love it so much that I don't even know how to say it properly. But
sopa de tortilla just throw us so bad.
But Guadalajara, for me, I would choose Guadalajara over Mexico City.
Well, me, something that I really like from Mexico City is there's a lot of things to do.
And so much street food.
So much street food. But again, from Guadalajara, I really like how quiet it felt in comparison with Mexico City. And I still have something pending with Guadalajara, which is my Chivas match.
Yeah, so we're gonna go. But you haven't said which one is your favorite.
Guadalajara.
Yeah. Okay, we are synonymous on that. Unanimous. We're unanimous on that. Guadalajara. We hope that you guys found it very informative. Let us know in the comments if you're choosing Mexico City or Guadalajara, Team CDMX or Team GDL. We're Team GDL. But anyways, just a little life update. Giovanni and I are currently in Playa del Carmen, which is where we live with our beautiful little cheeky boy named Ted. If you guys have watched us for a while, you'll know that we do a fair amount of traveling around Mexico. But lately, I would say the last 2 or 3 months, we've really been prioritizing our physical and our mental health, putting a lot more effort into the food that we're eating, making sure that we're getting movement every day, making sure that we're getting adequate rest. So for now, we've decided that we're just gonna go easy on the travel for a bit, just until we feel like ready and fulfilled again to go traveling. So we're going to be mostly in this region of the Riviera Maya. We've got a lot of exciting videos coming up specifically in this region, and then perhaps later in the year when we're feeling up to it, when we're feeling ready for it, we will start traveling further out back into Mexico again. So yeah, if you guys are here for our Mexico content, or if you just enjoy seeing our faces, thank you for being here.
And before we end this video, we really want to thank to all of our Buy Me a Coffee supporters. Really thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a big thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't subscribed, and that being said, we'll see you in the next episode. Hasta luego.
Sorry.
No.
So aside from the iconic places,
It's fun. It's very fun to record with someone. Okay, so no, okay, no. Yeah.
okay, all right, okay, all right, okay.